A week ago, I took my daughter for a drive. We drove on a well-traveled mountain road and had dinner at a drive-in halfway up the road. Afterwards, I took an unpaved side road, hoping to scare my daughter. I was amused that she stopped me, so I kept going and going. Then suddenly the car engine stopped. We were deep in the mountains, so there was no cell phone service, and I didn't know anything about cars. We were at a loss. It would take hours to walk to the place where we had dinner. We had no choice but to stay in the car that night and walk to the drive-in the next morning. The sun was setting as we were getting cold in the car. There was no sound in the mountains at night. Every once in a while the wind would blow and the trees would rustle. Time went on, and my daughter fell asleep in the passenger seat. I closed my eyes and thought, I'm going to bed too, and then I heard something. It's weird to remember now, like I don't know if it was a voice or a sound.
10. Saw. Metsu.
It was repeating over and over. At first I thought I was mishearing, so I kept my eyes closed. The sound seemed to be getting closer and closer, and I couldn't resist opening my eyes. Then I saw something white and fluffy approaching the car, moving in a crazy way. It looked like Jamila from Ultraman. It had no head and only one leg. It was coming toward us, waving its hands in a crazy way and shaking its whole body. I was so scared that I almost screamed. But for some reason, I couldn't scream or run away because I didn't want to wake up my daughter who was sleeping next to me. It kept coming closer and closer to the car, but it seemed to pass by the car as it went. While it was passing by, I kept hearing the sound of
10. Saw. Metsu.
The sound moved away, and when I looked back, it was gone. I turned to my daughter in the passenger seat, relieved, and there it was, outside the passenger window. I thought it had no head, but when I looked closer, I saw a face on its chest. It was smiling at me with a horrible look on its face that I didn't want to remember. I was so angry that it was so close to my daughter that I screamed, "You son of a bitch!" As soon as I yelled, it disappeared and my daughter jumped up. I thought she must have been startled awake by the scream, so I tried to apologize. But she mumbled,
I put it in. 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 I put it in.
"Oh no," I thought, and tried to turn on the engine to get away from the place. Luckily, the engine came on. We hurried back the way we came. My daughter was still mumbling next to me. I accelerated the car, wanting to get to a place where there were people. I finally saw the lights of the city and felt a little relieved, but before I knew it, her mumbling had changed from I put it in, I put it into 10, so, Mets. Her face looked like it wasn't her face. I couldn't go home with her in this condition, so I ran to a temple I saw. It was the middle of the night, but the building next to the temple where the priest lived had lights on. I pressed the chime, dragging my daughter with me. When the priest came out of the building and saw my daughter, he turned to me and said, "What have you done?" he said. I told him about my experience on the mountain. The priest looked disappointed and said, "I'm sure it will only make her feel better." He read a sutra and started banging on my daughter's shoulder and back. He told us to stay the night, so we did. He said that my daughter was possessed by Yamanoke, and if this condition continues after 49 days, she will stay like this for the rest of her life and will never come to her senses. He told me that he would take care of my daughter and try to drive the Yamanoke out of her so that this would not happen. He said that if I had gone home like that, there was a possibility that Yamanoke would possess my wife as well. He said that the Yamanoke seemed to possess women, and that in order to completely exorcise the Yamanoke from my daughter, my wife would not be able to see her either. A week later, my daughter is still with the priest. I go to check on her every day and she is no longer the same girl she used to be. She is smiling and looking at me with a creepy look in her eyes. Please, I want my daughter back to her original state. Don't feel free to go to the mountains.